At the opening, we are introduced to Andy, who has just arrived in Morocco to meet one of her team members, Booker. Booker informs her about their new task involving the rescue of kidnapped girls in South Sudan. He tells her that a former CIA agent named James Copley continues to work on such freelance jobs and wants them to do it. Initially, Andy refuses to take the job because it violates their rule: never work for the same company twice. But Booker persuades her to at least come to the hotel and talk to her teammates, Nikki and Joe. Upon arrival, the group is overjoyed to meet each other after so long. The rest seem willing to take the job, but Andy does not trust James. As a result, they decide to have a meeting with James to gather more information about the issue. In the next scene, Andy and Booker meet James at a local restaurant while Nikki and Joe watch over them, maintaining sniper positions. James explains the situation to them and emphasizes how they can make a difference in the world. Suspicious, Andy asks why James left the CIA, and he replies that his sick wife passed away, and since then he has not been able to return. Hearing all this, Andy, though hesitant, finally agrees to take the job. The crew then departs for their mission to South Sudan by helicopter. They arrive there in the afternoon and wait for the right time to infiltrate the kidnappers' headquarters. When night falls, they quietly neutralize the guards and walk towards the basement. To their surprise, they do not find the girls in the bunker, and instead realize they are under CCTV surveillance. This makes them aware that they have been set up. However, before they can react, they are ambushed by a group of armed military forces who unleash their weapons at the four of them. The crew falls to the ground, seemingly dead. The military forces then turn away, believing they are dead. However, in an unexpected event, the four begin to recover quickly, removing bullets from their bodies. They quickly rise and take down all the armed forces in seconds. All this is witnessed by James from the camera. After the incident, the crew buries their blood-stained clothes in the sand before boarding a train. During their post-discussion about the next steps, Andy states that they must find James because he now knows who they are. Here it is revealed that the four of them are centuries-old warriors with unexplained regenerative healing abilities. They use their vast experience to work as mercenaries, running missions to help people. This is the first time their secret abilities have been revealed. At the same time in Afghanistan, a Marine unit led by Niall is tasked with investigating a group of women believed to be held captive by a terrorist. During the interrogation, a woman quietly heads to a room where the terrorist appears to be hiding. As a result, the soldiers break into the room and shoot the enemy in the chest. Niall then begins to check his pockets, but the terrorist, fatally, slashes her throat. Back on the train, the four super soldiers share dreams about Niall's death that make them realize she is one of them. Andy then instructs the three to find James, while she decides to get Niall. On the other hand, we learn that Niall is safe. When she wakes up in the medical tent, her teammates are shocked to realize that she doesn't even have a scratch from her injury. Consequently, they decide to send her to Germany for further testing. This news saddens Niall, so she sits in a corner and listens to her favorite song to calm herself down. However, before she is transferred, Andy tracks her down and approaches her with a weapon. Niall asks about her identity, and she introduces herself as Andromache of Scythia from their team. She then neutralizes Niall before abducting her from the military base. A moment later, Niall regains consciousness and finds herself in the trunk of a military vehicle. In an attempt to escape, she kicks the trunk open and jumps out. Andy notices, stops her vehicle, and then shoots Niall in the back of the head, waiting for her to recover. When Niall finally opens her eyes, Andy asks her to accompany her if she wants answers. The scene then shifts to England, where we are introduced to a pharmaceutical executive named Stephen Merrick, who is giving a presentation to potential donors for stem cell research. He tells them that he has technology capable of eradicating human diseases and extending life. All he needs is investment. After the presentation ends, James Copley, who is also there, shows Stephen a video of immortality. This shocks Stephen so much that he orders James to capture the team as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Andy and Niall board a drug smuggler's plane and head to a meeting point in Paris. Niall still doesn't trust Andy and thinks she drugged her with something. However, she falls silent when Andy reminds her of the terrorist who slit her throat. After this, Andy takes a nap where Niall quietly ties her to the seat and holds the pilot at gunpoint. She also threatens him to land right now. When Andy realizes what's happening, she has a brilliant plan. She asks her pilot to pretend to be dead, then fakes a gunshot, making it look like a murder. This clearly scares Niall, but Andy reassures her that she can fly the plane. As a result, the frightened girl reluctantly releases her bindings, but she soon realizes that it was just a ruse. The two then duel, but Andy, as an experienced and professional fighter, manages to defeat her. She finally convinces Niall to join their team, showing that she is no longer a Marine. After landing in Paris, they head to an abandoned church, where Niall meets the remaining group. During dinner, she learns more about their immortality. Booker, before Niall, was the youngest immortal from the 18th century, while Nikki and Joe have been together since the 12th century. The oldest immortal is none other than Andy. As they talk, she reveals that they are not truly immortal. Their healing ability eventually stops without warning. That's what happened to a man named Lycon. That night, Niall has a disturbing dream and wakes up the entire crew. She tells them about her dream of a woman locked in an Iron Maiden sinking in the middle of the sea. The crew tells her that she dreamed of the immortal Quinn. Andy then reveals that when she and Quinn tried to free women accused of witchcraft hundreds of years ago, they themselves were captured and accused of witchcraft. When the townspeople realized they could not kill either of them, they separated them. Andy somehow managed to escape captivity, while Quinn was locked in an iron coffin and thrown into the sea. Since then, she has been drowning and reviving in an endless cycle. Hearing all this, Niall, seemingly disturbed, walks out to take some time alone. But she is followed by Andy. Suddenly, a group of soldiers sent by James Copley arrives at the church. After hearing noises, Andy and Niall return inside only to find that Joe and Nikki have been taken away, leaving Booker wounded. It turns out Booker was blasted by a grenade, and his wounds are deep. Therefore, his healing is taking longer with each regeneration. Andy kills all their attackers one by one. After she returns, they pack their belongings and head to another safe house. Meanwhile, Joe and Nikki are taken by James to England, where they are then taken to Stephen Merrick's research lab. Stephen explains that he intends to use them for stem cell research and will experiment on them to uncover their regenerative abilities. He also asks James to bring Andy and Booker, while Nikki and Joe are sent to the lab. After extracting all the samples they need, James asks Stephen to release them. However, Stephen refuses out of selfishness. On the other hand, Andy, Niall, and Booker arrive at another safe house. As Booker tries to locate James through his computer, Andy realizes that Booker is still bleeding from previously sustained wounds, realizing that he has not yet recovered. She goes to a pharmacy and buys a lot of medical supplies. She then returns to her car and takes time to grapple with the realization that her immortality has diminished. That same night, Niall wakes up from another nightmare and steps out for some fresh air. There, she finds Andy, and they talk about their families, also expressing the pain of being immortal. Their conversation is soon interrupted by Booker, who claims to have found James's whereabouts. Without wasting time, all three drive in the same direction. However, as they prepare to break in, Niall tries to join them. She says she already has a family and wants to be with them before it's too late. This time Andy lets her go, even allowing her to take the car and gun. After this, Niall heads to the train station, while Andy and Booker enter the building to confront James. Once they find him, Andy demands information about the whereabouts of her friends. At this moment, Booker suddenly shoots her from behind and ties her up. He then admits that he arranged this because he thinks they might need a way to end their immortality. However, he starts to panic when he sees that Andy is not healing. Soon after, Stephen and his men enter and capture the two super soldiers. James tries to protest, highlighting Andy's unhealed condition and the potential for her death. But Stephen seems uncaring as he is willing to torture the immortals indefinitely to study them. As James continues to protest, he is knocked down by the guards. Stephen then takes Andy and Booker to his lab and detains them along with the other crew members. Elsewhere, Niall arrives at the station, but she realizes her gun is empty, recognizing Booker's betrayal. She returns to James's place and asks to find out what happened. James then confesses that he has been conducting research on Andy and her crew. James also recounted all the good they had done for humanity. He thought he was helping the world by capturing them, but he was wrong. Now, after changing his mind, he decides to help Niall save her crew members. James then takes her to Stephen Merrick's highly secure research lab. He informs Niall about the patrol guards and the research located on the 15th floor. He also gives her a master card that can access any door in the building. With this, Niall arms herself with a gun and starts fighting the guards, then enters. She quickly finds the crew members and frees them. All 5 regroup and make their way towards Stephen, taking down all the guards in their path. This time, the team prioritizes protecting Andy because she cannot heal if shot. They finally enter Stephen's office but do not find him there. At that moment, they see the elevator going down, so Booker, Nikki, and Joe chase down the stairs, while Niall stays with Andy. However, it turns out to be a ruse when Stephen confronts the 2 women, pointing a gun at them. At this point, it seems the villain will win. Niall and Andy have a plan. They actually perform the same trick from the plane. Andy pretends to be dead, acting as a distraction, giving Niall enough time to take him down. She then grabs Stephen and jumps from the 15th floor before landing on a car. Moments later, she slowly recovers and comes back to life, while Stephen is killed. After the incident, the group leaves the scene and stops at a restaurant to discuss Booker's fate. After some consideration, Andy speaks privately with Booker and informs him that they have decided his punishment. The group sentences him to a punishment of loneliness, forbidding him from contacting them for the next 100 years. Andy and Booker then embrace emotionally because they both know they will not meet again. Afterward, the other group members meet with James, who explains how his research revealed that their past missions had a greater impact than they ever knew. According to him, the descendants of the people they saved will help the world in various ways. With a new belief in their existence, the group allows James to join their team. Andy instructs him to keep their secret and find missions that can make an impact. 6 months later in Paris, a depressed and drunk Booker returns to his apartment only to be greeted by Quinn, and the film ends. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.